I just saw a woman on here say her toxic trait is thinking that she could go toe to toe with a man if she's angry enough. And I just want to share how that kind of thinking was slapped out of me at the age of 14. In the area that I grew up in, the school that I grew up in, it was very normal for boys to hit girls. Anyone could get it, basically. So one of the most important traits that I looked for in a female friend was that if I'm fighting, we're all fighting, right? You literally had to be ride or die. Everyone was fighting, because if a boy stepped to you, all the girls would come and then nothing would take place because he knew he was outnumbered, because numbers mattered. However, I felt like I had enough rage in me sometimes when there was disrespect involved. And I would like to think it's maybe my Irish blood. I just have a lot of internalized rage. So this particular boy was just a little piece of shit. Okay, he was fucking annoying. I still remember his name. If I saw him today, I would still remember him. I can literally just picture him, and I can imagine he still probably looks the same. He was just a little shit. I think he was always trying to prove himself to his friends. He was an interesting individual. And I was at a park with my friend after school one day, and he was with his friends, and he started throwing stones at us from a distance, and they were hitting us, and they were hitting us pretty hard. And it was really frustrating because they were a decent distance away. If I started to run and try and catch him, like, I'm not catching him. He's gonna run. He's probably gonna throw more rocks at my face, and it's gonna look bad for me. So I had to just kind of firm it, walk away, and plot. So I thought to myself, I probably weigh like twice the weight of this guy. I wasn't a small girl. I'm still not a small girl, but I was quite a big girl in school. And he was, again, like I said, skinny. He wasn't even tall. He was probably similar height to me. And I thought, I'm going to catch him lacking. I'm going to get him. Okay. So after school one day, everyone would hang out around the side roads around school. And I saw him standing there. And I thought, yeah, this is my fucking opportunity. I'm going to knock him out. So I went up to him and I said, like, what the fuck did you think you were doing the other day? I was getting in his face. I was initiating either an apology, or I was going to knock him out, right? I was angry enough. I was bigger than him. And yeah, I was angry enough. I had enough rage to be able to take this fight and win it. Before I knew it, this guy just grips me, picked me off the floor and swung me around a couple times and threw me on top of a car and said, don't fucking touch me. And he walked away. Did I try and chase him? No. Did I learn that day that biology matters? Okay, biology matters. I was definitely the weaker sex physically in that moment. I was thinking to myself, yeah, Sarah, pick your battles very wisely. And this is why, if you know me, if you're a lady and we're friends, when you're from London, sometimes it's the culture. Yeah, you do have this inflated sense of like, I'd be able to take anyone if I'm angry enough. And if you're my friend and you have said to me before, yeah, I'll just knock him out, you know that I would just look at you like you're an idiot, because it's just not the case. I'm so sorry. I really wish it was. I wish we were able to. We could start training and trying, but it's still, I think we'll at least need two of us. Okay? 2 of us versus 1 might give us a chance.
So this video is from Trigonometry. It's called The Problem with Feminizing Society. And this is Helen Andrews giving us a pretty interesting perspective on what feminism has done in society.
Employees at many institutions is one of the reasons that society has gone the way it has. Is that fair?
I think that's fair to say. Some people have reacted to the piece by, acting as if I'm saying women cause all the problems in the world. I'm definitely not saying that, but I am saying that feminization has caused one particular problem, and that is wokeness. Like a lot of people, I was baffled by the woke phenomenon. Why did everyone seemingly go crazy all at once in the summer of 2020? It was inexplicable. It seemed to be mass hysteria, genuinely. And the more I thought about what caused it, which is a very important question, because if we know what causes it, we know how to prevent it from happening in the future. I read an article that someone else wrote that put forward a really simple, elegant thesis, which is that wokeness is simply feminine patterns of behavior applied to institutions where women had not been very well represented until recently. Women tend to be more focused, consensus oriented. Men, when they're approaching a moral question, will ask, what are the facts? What are the rules? Whereas women will say, what are the relationships at play here? How can we make everybody happy? How can we reach an outcome that will satisfy all the parties? As opposed to the male perspective of how do we reach an outcome that is just and according to the rules. That sounded a lot like wokeness to me. And the sort of piece that made it all click into place for me was the coincidence of timing. It is the case, just we can all agree as a matter of fact, that a lot of institutions that went woke or were affected by wokeness became demographically female in the last 5 years. Law schools in America turned majority female in 2016, and they've gotten a little bit more female every year since then. I think now it's
Which is fine. You're doing your thing. But it's one thing to bring ideologies that help the team grow. Like, say, for instance, if you add a woman to your team, honestly and truly, it really doesn't matter who you add to your team. If they're bringing a good, new, fresh perspective on things that's helping your company grow, then that's fantastic. But with wokeness and a lot of this foolishness, that's exactly what it's brought. It brought a lot of foolishness into these companies and a lot more red tape. Now, we're not talking about, well, anyway, let's go ahead.
Stands at 55, 56%. The New York Times became majority female in its workforce in 2018, which is maybe why it was so susceptible to the fads of wokeness and the internal policing and the Slack revolts that took place internally over there. Medical schools are now majority female. The white collar workforce overall, employees in the United States with college degrees, a majority of them are women. And management positions in the U.S. workforce, 46% female, so almost majority female. So the fact that all of these institutions tipped over to being majority female around the same time that wokeness emerged seemed to me that couldn't possibly be a coincidence.
And there's so many questions within that. I guess the first stress test of this argument would be, well, they were also very close to being majority female 10 years prior to that, right? So does going from 48 to 52%, is that really such a major shift that it would cause something as dramatic as that?
Well, you'd be surprised. I thought that the higher education workforce, professors in the United States would have gone female ages and ages ago. But it actually only tipped female in 2023. So we think of feminization as something that happened a long time ago, but it really does take a certain amount of time for time to pass and older generations to retire. But I think the reason why attaining a critical mass of women has such a dramatic effect is that we're not talking about individual differences between individual men and individual women, but differences in group dynamics. For example, you might be able to say from the perspective of psychology as a discipline that women tend to be more emotional than men and men tend to be more rational, or well, any kind of generalization about men and women might have a certain amount of empirical support based on surveys. But at the end of the day, those differences are not massive, right? Like female support for free speech is greater or is less than male by double digits, but not, it's not like night and day.
Right.
But when it comes to group dynamics, how does an organization function? How does an institution deal with conflict? When you're talking about those kinds of things, those tend to be more binary. Like either you solve your conflicts within an organization in a masculine way or in a feminine way. Either open conflict is something that your institution will tolerate or it's not. So that's the kind of thing where once you get a critical mass, you really kind of have to pick which one you're going to do.
Well, you mentioned consensus, and
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Because a lot of times it used to be the case for relationships. And talking about good relationships, healthy relationships, that there was one leader. There was one, at the end of the day, one representative that could say, okay, I've talked to my family, me and my wife, and if you had kids that were of age, we talked about it, and this is the consensus that we've come to. But now in today's age, we talk about with companies, then you have the wokeness that has spread. Everybody's got to have a say on down to like the people who might not know the full picture of what's going on. And so it slows things down and it backs things up because we have to get all of the surveys in and we have to get everything tallied. And it'd be one thing if it was like, okay, maybe once or twice a year, we got a survey run in and we want to see the results, and we've brought in consultants to help out with X, Y, and Z and to put together the numbers to see what's going on. And then we make a decision on whatever and whatnot. That's you getting boots on the ground to see the state of your company. right? You as CEO can't see everything, right? So you send somebody out there to do it. Today, what's happening is you have modern women that are literally stopping progress. And they're saying everybody has to have a vote. Until we have a vote, we're not moving. And other companies, just by virtue of making a decision and moving on, are more successful. And then you have modern women that talk about, oh, well, it's inequality. We're always getting left behind and treated. And I'm not lying to you. You have articles. I can pull up one right now. I think the Independent wrote one, but essentially it was about Sheryl Sandberg. I think she was former, can't remember, CFO or CTO or something like that of Meta, right? And she left to start Lean In. And basically when they did their research in 2025, which just passed, they found that women felt they were being left behind. They were being left behind. Whoa, it's not working as we expected to do, yada, yada. After saying all of that stuff, it's not working. I wonder why. I wonder why it's not working. Because men make a decision, whether right or wrong, and they move on. They learn from their mistakes, and the ones that don't get moved to the side, shamed, roasted, while the other people pick up the characteristics of success and the lessons learned and continue moving. If everybody has to have a vote, and it takes you umpteen years to have that vote and get that vote all tallied and put in, you haven't moved yet. That's the problem with honestly and truly wokeness and some of these DEI hires. I hate to say it like that, but some of these DEI hires.
Sort of empathy and including all perspectives. That really isn't what happened with wokeness, though, is it? Because it was more like, we've come to a new consensus and anyone who doesn't agree is going to get killed, basically. Is that really, I mean, that might be the way women deal with this on a group basis. I don't know. You tell me.
No, it's hard to verbalize some of these differences because it might be a convenient shorthand to say men are more comfortable with conflict than women. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? But a famous psychology study, very often if you're studying gender differences, and you're a psychologist, the way you'll do your study is you'll just go to a playground and watch the kids playing and observe and count up how many times somebody hits somebody else or something like that. And there was an experiment of that type done, I believe, in Scandinavia, and it had a really funny outcome. The psychologists observed the kids playing and counted up how many fights they had. And they said, okay, we observed that the men fight a lot more than the girls. But then as a supplement, they decided to confirm their observations by talking to the kids and saying, how many fights did you have today, Billy? Or how many fights did you have today, Sally? And their discrepancy was huge. They found that the girls reported having just as many fights as the men.
Interesting.
The level of conflict, male and female, on that schoolyard was exactly the same.
Makes sense. Once you think about it, men might have conflict in front of people. You gonna see it. You gonna see it. But women, they're gonna hide it. They're gonna put up a front. They're gonna present well a lot of times, but behind closed doors. To see a woman have a fight, you see a lot of fights on reality TV because the cameras are everywhere. But you got to notice where those fights are, right? They're inside of places. Not a lot of times are they outside, right out in the open. If the camera wasn't in the house, you wouldn't see it, right? If the camera wasn't in the bathroom, you wouldn't see it. So a lot of these places are private places that they're having issues. But then when they get out, oh, no, we're fine. It's okay. You won't even know because they'll try to clean themselves up.
But their observations had failed to record any of the female conflicts because when they asked the girls, oh, you had a fight today, what did that entail? It was things like Megan said she was going to tell everybody they couldn't be my friend anymore.
Which is where words of violence comes from. Or I imagine you're right.
That's right. That's right. And one of the most consistent psychological differences between men and women is women have a strong impulse of caring. Right, which is exactly, I'm not somebody who looks to evolutionary biology for the solutions to all human phenomena, but this particular one does seem glaringly Darwinian, right? That women see helpless things and they want to take care of them. That is definitely something that Darwin would find a pretty easy explanation for. But that's also something that wokeness can easily weaponize. It means that if you can frame your political issue as a way of caring for some helpless class, then you're golden, right?
Minorities are babies.
That's right. But that is precisely what's going on at a deeper level. And that's why it's been so effective.
And Helen, your article, and I encourage everyone to read it, it's fascinating whether you agree or disagree with it, but you cited one particular case, which is the former president of Harvard. So let's talk about that, because you use it as the main example for the thrust of your argument.
That's right. This was back in 2005. So this is before anybody had ever heard of wokeness. Now, I don't know if your listeners in the UK will be familiar with Larry Summers, but he was...
And I really like that she said this is before anybody could have heard of wokeness. Well, it's because, you know, if you study the trend and the pattern, you'll find that. You'll see this type of stuff. Men are not playing around. I can see what's about. This is a man's job. So it's a man's job to see this type of stuff. I'm not saying that women are incapable of doing it, but it's the way a man works. Okay, I've been out here before. If we're hunting, by this time every day, this animal is right here doing this every day. So when they see a woman right here at this time, every day doing it, you can set your watch. I mean, police do the same thing. Detectives do the same thing. Private investigators do the same thing. So it's not rocket science. I'm just observing, like she talked about, psychology. I'm just observing what you do, and I'm writing down my observations. And if you continue to do this over a long period of time, I can probably bet that you're going to do it again.
Was at that time probably one of the 10 most powerful people in the country. He was not just the president of Harvard. He had also been in Bill Clinton's cabinet. He had been at the World Bank. He was an academically eminent economist, very well connected in the Democratic Party, just a really powerful guy. He was invited to give a speech at a conference on female underrepresentation in science and math, and he decided to deliver his remarks off the cuff and to be really... And actually, if you know anything about Larry Summers, he has a reputation for being a really blunt guy. He's somebody who does not suffer fools gladly. So when you're getting the blunt Larry Summers, you're really getting something quite direct. But the talk was supposed to be off the record. And that's important to emphasize, that the women who listened to what he said and took it to a reporter were violating the rules that they had undertaken to follow when they attended. Anyway, he said that...
Which they'll do, and then they'll say, well, it was for the greater good, right? That's why you see a lot of women violating NDAs. I think there was Tiger Woods might have had one. Oh, well, we're trying to get that nullified with his girlfriend who was living in his house and tried to sue him and take money from him. They're not even married. Modern women do that, man.
That female underrepresentation in the hard sciences was attributable to a lot of different factors, not necessarily just prejudice or bias or the patriarchy not thinking ladies can be scientists. There is a difference of aptitude at the very, very, very high ends. If you're talking about people who are going to be tenured at MIT, that's the way out at the end of the bell curve, and there tend to be more men out there than women. And also differences in taste. That is, women tend to gravitate towards professions and fields where they get to deal with people as opposed to something really cold and abstract like physics. Not to say that no women do, but that is the tendency. So women who are way out there at that end of the bell curve and have the aptitude for a career in hard science would maybe gravitate to something like medicine as opposed to something like physics. Yep. So Larry Summers said all this, and there were a bunch of lady scientists in the audience who said, how dare you? And they gave quotes to a reporter, something like, I felt like I was going to throw up, or I thought I was going to black out. And it became a huge controversy. And there were a lot of other controversies during Larry Summers' tenure as president of Harvard. So that was not the only thing that brought him down, but it was definitely at the very top of the list. And about a year later, he resigned.
And what's really interesting is with that case, and now I don't doubt that it caused a massive stir when he went on and basically went, I'm going to freestyle and deliver truth bombs to all of you. So here we are, enjoy it. But he's also, if you get to be president of Harvard, you are going to make enemies aplenty. In order to get to that position, you're going to have to fire people, antagonize people, because that's just the nature of the job. So he would have had loads of enemies who were willing just to pounce at that particular moment, surely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember some of the other controversies that have attended Larry Summers' career. And I believe one from his tenure at the World Bank was when he said, are we sure we want to really, really enforce labor laws against having sweatshops in third world countries? Because isn't having sweatshops good for them sometimes? I mean, it leads to economic development. He phrased it in a really blunt way. So like, this is a guy who has a history of putting his foot in his mouth in a way that I frankly find really admirable.
Yeah. But certain people don't. So then has that been extrapolated right the way through society, essentially, is your argument? That
was one of the first times that a cancellation happened, that people heard somebody say something offensive, pitched a little fit, and managed to rob this person of his job. And the particular aspect of it that seemed so full of foreboding looking back is that...
You're talking about pitching fits. What they'll do is they'll find, if nothing's being done about it, we're dealing with a generation of people in general that will find a person's information. They'll find it and they'll post it online. And they'll say, oh, it wasn't me that did it. but people will get so mad and enraged that they'll be at that person's house, physically trying to harm that person in an indirect way.
Is that there was no attempt to debate the issue rationally. There were plenty of people, even people on the Harvard faculty, with eminent expertise in the relevant scientific fields, willing to stand up and say everything Larry Summers said was perfectly within the scientific mainstream. Greater male variability hypothesis, that's, everybody thinks that. So there were people willing to say he's right on the facts. Criticize him all you want for his tone, but he was right on the facts.
Yep.
And the women who went after his job
Sounds like Kevin Samuels. Sounds like Kevin Samuels.
were not willing to have that debate. They were not willing to talk about it rationally. They just said, I'm offended. I felt like I was going to black out. He was invalidating my career. This is everything I work for. Very much a feelings over facts kind of thing. And so I don't mind if there are people who are feminists or who have different political views to those that I have, but it's important that we be able to debate them, right? That we have rational arguments. And this was one of the first instances where people just said, no, I'm not gonna debate it. I'm just gonna say I'm offended. And that's gonna be the end of the story.
Because Jordan Peterson used to talk a lot about this, where he used to talk about one of the ways that females try and destroy or attack other people isn't through the physical realm, it's through reputation destruction. And this is essentially what you're talking about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
This episode of Trigonometry is brought to you. I nearly made the joke that, you're saying we shouldn't get rid of the ideology, we should just get rid of the women. But I guess what I'm going to ask you is, once you've got a situation where you've encouraged so many women into the workplace, your argument is you've affirmative actioned them somewhat into the workplace. We now live in a society where even as a two-income couple, life is pretty hard, actually, in a way that it just wasn't for your grandparents in this country. Are you going to get the toothpaste back in the tube? Like, how do you even do that? Because as a young woman, you're not going to get married until your mid-30s, possibly, just because of the way the world is. Yep. You need to make a living. You need to have a career. It's no longer as much of an option to find a guy at 20 and marry, be the homemaker, and let him, because like that guy's going to have to earn a hell of a lot of money just for you to live a lower class life. Forget about a middle class life, right?
The two-income trap is a serious problem.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of things unrelated to the gender question that we can do to address that. I think that reducing immigration would actually go a really long way to solving the two-income trap and reducing some of those massive cost of living pressures that couples face. But I have hope. I'm optimistic that the two-income trap problem can be solved through appropriate policies, because there are just so many forces of gravity pulling against it. Mm-hmm. Even now, when there are so many pressures for women to stay in the workforce, even when they have kids, even with all of those things, most women still tell surveys that they prefer to work part-time or to drop out of the workforce for a few years while their kids are young. So that's what women still want. And the women whose husbands do earn enough tend to do exactly that.
They're going to do
even
that.
Really accomplished women, women with law degrees or medical degrees, most of them go part-time at some point in their careers when they choose to have children. So there really are a lot of deeply seated human forces of gravity pulling in the direction of the mode of family that we've had for millennia. So
and this is once again something that men have been saying, like on the whole, and she talked about even established women, even well-to-do women, they're dropping out of the workforce. They're saying, does my husband got it? Then I'm at the house. Unless I need to be there, I'm not going to be there. You gotta understand. Well, you as a man, you get this, whatever. You don't want me to get the benefit, but it's going to be to your benefit to stay at the house. You're going to have to think about work. Well, that's the only place that I get comfort and whatever. What nonsense. Your body's going to need to heal. You're going to need to be doing that, taking care of the child the way you want to, spending time bonding with it, skin to skin, tummy time, all that other stuff that you would want to teach. And with things happening in the world, you just want to keep an extra eye on your child to make sure that everything is going like it should. Ain't nothing going awry. You give it to somebody else, they get frustrated. We were just watching a documentary last night, or the beginning of it, where a woman went crazy on the child, man. Went crazy on the child and did some weird stuff, right? In jail now, probably death row, but just crazy. Most people want to be around their children, to kind of make sure that they're the ones that are instilling the values that they believe, the morals, the guide, the guidelines, the instruction. on where they want that child to go, what they want that child to be. So of course, if my husband's got it, I'm going to drop out. I'm going to take all my maternity leave and probably even more. And then when I get good and ready to, I'm going to come back into the workforce. Men have been saying this once again.
The two income trap does make it harder, but I think if we make it even just a little bit easier, people will gravitate to the older, better model. One of the best responses to the article that I read was by Megan McArdle, who's a political journalist in Washington, D.C., who I've been reading for a long time. She's really, really great, really sharp. But she reflected on the feminization thesis and thought, well, you know, certainly there's really a lot of validity there. But the part that I liked was her anecdote of her own career in media. She said, you know, that she's been to policy dinners in DC where journalists and practitioners get together. And she's been to some all-female ones, deliberately all-female, you know, to help the ladies advance their careers. And she says the atmosphere is so different because at those all-female dinners, when you ask somebody a question, you do that with the purpose of getting an answer and hearing what it is. If you're at a mixed policy dinner where men are present, you ask a question to prove that you're smarter than the person you're asking the question of. And so it is clear.
Well, not too much old men now. Not too much old men now. Go ahead.
Really true that I do not mean to lionize or paint a rosy picture of masculine modes of interaction. They are certainly not always oriented towards the pursuit of truth. But our institutions have evolved to turn male stupidity and competitiveness and silliness. I have 3 boys. I deal with it a lot. To turn that into, to channel that towards the pursuit of truth. So even if you are at one of the mixed policy dinners that Megan McArdle was talking about, and it's a lot of people trying to show that they're smarter than the other people at the end of the table, everybody else in the room learns a lot. You know, the fact that you're trying to do that kind of one-upsmanship tends to lead to a good conversation and to advance. Certainly with greater celerity than the all-female policy dinners, which I have also been at, which do tend to move really slow because there's a lot of compliments and telling each other how great they are. Nothing against it. I love compliments, but you know, it does take up a lot of time.
You know, and what? Well, moving on.
No, hold on. Sorry to interrupt. But can we come back to this point about media? Because the broadcast scene, I just genuinely don't think, with all respect to our fellow YouTubers and podcasters, has created an environment that is more focused on the pursuit of truth. And that to me is kind of the big issue with the argument you're making. Do you have any more to say on that aspect of it?
I mean, I'm not sure that the purpose of a podcast is always just the pursuit of truth, right? At a certain level, it's also about entertainment. It's also about growing your audience. You know, I've worked at a lot of publications where you have meetings and sit down and ask basic questions like, what is our purpose? And truth is a part of it and one that you always want to keep front and center, but I'm not sure it's the only thing. But I guess my real response is that there are definitely masculine modes of failure as well. So it is very possible for institutions to fail in distinctively masculine ways that they would not have failed if there had been more ladies in the room. But when I look at the world around me today, I don't see a lot of institutions failing in that way. I do see a lot of institutions failing in distinctly feminine ways.
And would you?
So I think it's just truth. You know, for a lot of men, when you fail at something and when you're not good at it, then you know you're gonna hear about it. It's no way that you're gonna get away from that. You're gonna hear about what you're doing wrong, how long you've been doing it wrong. They're gonna clock you coming. Well, I saw you doing it wrong, and I just didn't say nothing. And you have to hear about all that. You know, from the men in your life, the women in your life, almost quite literally anybody. But like she said, women are giving a lot of compliments, which, you know, is not inherently a bad thing. It's just, how are you going to learn? If somebody doesn't wake you up and say, hey, you're behind, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. When a man fails, it's quite clear or he's failing, it's quite clear that he's not doing a great job and there needs to be a change. I'm just reading now that Mike Tomlin is stepping down as the Steelers head coach after 19 seasons, even though they just said, oh, well, you know, he's never had a losing season, yada, yada, yada. But they're looking for, hey, it's great that you won a Super Bowl, but we want to win some more. And we haven't really been as good as we've been. We're kind of floating around mediocrity. Same goes for my Cowboys. Had some great years, but once again, floating around mediocrity. There needs to be a huge change. People are seeing that and they're like, man, you need to get a move on, right? But for a lot of these modern women out here, you know, that's not really something that's talked about. A lot of times it's, uh, well, you did great, and don't worry about failure. You're doing fantastic, and it's hard enough being a woman. Well, now we're seeing and we're listening to what she says, and we're seeing, well, it's you coming into society like this, and just having, oh well, it needs to be like this. Just a lot of feminine characteristics. Not saying all of them are bad, but a lot of, well, it's got to be done this way, and if it's not done this way, then you're racist or you're discriminating and all that other nonsense. That's slowing down and in some cases completely stopping progress. And so now, over and over again, you're hearing people who are actually slowing down and studying and observing what's going on, saying, maybe we've got a problem with the woke agenda. Maybe we've got a problem trying to feminize everything. Maybe men did have a point after all. It's great for some things, but then other things, if we go fully into this direction, there's going to be issues. And a lot of modern women don't want to admit that men were right. But at this point, when things start to crumble, you don't have to admit it. We're all going to see it clearly.
I'm never giving a man thirsty energy ever in my entire life.
How about not
But
thirst?
it's not thirst.
It is.
That's a mental.
We're men and women. We're created a way for a certain reason. I'm never chasing a man ever in my entire life. I'm never, ever, ever going to be, oh, pick me. I'm going above and
Okay,
beyond.
so
Never.
can I say if we remove chase and we remove earn and we say I want you to show a level of interest, but I want you
But
to
I'm
show
not
a
going
level of
to.
interest above the people that you think that you're in competition with, so I can tell.
Let's be for real. Like when a man really likes you, he has to show it, or it's going to be missed calls, ghosting. It's going to be I'm out with my homies or whatever. It's not going to be like.
But do you think you get the missed calls and ghosting because you didn't separate yourself from that bunch? If I'm chasing you and I've shown interest, say we're doing 75% me chase and you're giving me 25% interest, right? And I can recognize that, but I'm not even getting that because you're playing this cat and mouse with like, I'm only going to give him 10%.
No, I don't think it's that. If you are a person that wants me to send you the good morning text or something, and you're like,
Yeah, but Jada, so you never send the guy a good morning text. You always
don't.
expect him to do it first.
say good morning to me.
But that's
it's
what
not
I'm
even
saying.
a game.
That's the thing that men want that too.
But that's
Wait,
for me.
you
it's
just said it's not even a game.
But
It's
that
not a
is
game.
a game.
I'm
For
not gonna
you to
wake
sit
up-
here and
But you
say
started
that
you started
do
saying it's not a game.
That's a game.
That's not me, but that's what I feel as though men do.
No,
Wait,
baby.
you
Guys
literally
want that
admitted-
too.
You
Guys
just
want
admitted
that
it,
too.
and
it's part of a game. You said it's not even a game.
I don't think for me it's not a game. I don't know. It's just that I think that when a guy says,
What if you
"Good
wake
morning,
up first?"
beautiful,"
You just let them motherfucker like, oh, she ain't up yet. Like,
Okay, so this is the thing. I have sent the good morning text or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, all right, it is equal when that in
Yeah,
certain
baby,
things.
it has to be equal because
Yeah, but
guys
no,
will
at the
feel
same
some
time-
type of way, especially quality men.
I think what she means is a dance, but it doesn't matter what you mean. It goes back to the point of what he was saying. You guys are playing too many games. Men are tired of that. That's why they just walk away. They ghost you because, like he said, they can clock what you're doing. They can see what you're doing. They already been around the way. Most of these guys that you're messing with or you're trying to mess with, they already been around the block a time or two. So they gonna see what you're saying. They gonna see what you're doing, and they gonna just walk away. That's how you get ghosted. Oh, you playing game? I told you not to play with me. You playing game? Ghosted. Well, you could at least know I can at least be nothing. Stop playing. You know what you're doing out here.
Maybe this is a little bit of a hot take and I wasn't sure if I was going to share this. I think it's important to talk about. I am not interested in being my boyfriend's landlord. I said in that video that my boyfriend is moving in with me. We are not engaged. We are not married. He's moving in with me to my house that I own. I just frankly am not interested in being his landlord. We had that conversation when I kind of prompted him to break his lease because again, like I said in that video, he was literally never at his apartment. He was here every single night. And I said that to him, like my mortgage is around $2,600 a month. I don't need your $1,300 a month to split it. I bought this house on my own because I can afford it on my own. I would rather him just take the money that he was spending on his rent and put it in his savings account. At the end of the day, we're moving in together because we want to be together forever. At some point in the near future, this isn't like years away, everything's going to be combined anyway. Whether he puts it in his savings account or Venmos me $1,300 a month, at some point, it's all going to be our household finances.
And what you're seeing is some women who want men to bear all of the cost. And what she's saying is, well, I'll take the risk. You know, it could be that we don't make it the distance. I don't think that's going to happen. It don't look like it's going to happen, but if it does, it does. I want him to put that in savings. That's the same exact way that modern women expect men to think. Well, you know, what's hers is hers. She can spend on whatever she wants, but you know, whatever I got, I'm going to put into the house. And she could leave me at any time, but you know, I love her so much. I don't really care about that. But what she's saying is, well, you know, what a lot of men are saying, well, it's going to be in the family anyway. It's going to be a household income anyway. So go ahead and put that in savings, and we're going to tap on that. We're going to draw on that a little bit later. You want to take a vacation? You want to pay for this kid's schooling? You got a head start, $1,300 a month. Fantastic.
What do you say to those men? Those men, there are a lot of men who, they're like, I take care of that, and I provide that, and
like I
that is my obligation.
That's called benevolence.
Okay.
That he feels is his duty because he's been brainwashed, and it's his benevolence, right? He doesn't. He's under no obligation to do any of that. You are the benefactor of his benevolence, right? Now, there's no way that he personally is actually happier day by day splitting his $200,000 when he could be sharing with you with $400,000. And the whole concept about your femininity is just a load of crock, because you're just as feminine when you working as a carpenter as you are when you baking cookies. Just like I'm just as masculine when I'm working as a carpenter as I am when I'm baking cookies. I don't bake cookies like this, right?
I don't like how men be like, ooh, I like that you be in the house. I'm in the house because I have too much self-respect to be in the streets. Not because I'm doing you a favor. The places I go close at 9 p.m. 10.
Yo, you not gonna believe this shit. That's the fucking point. Bro, I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. Like, that's the fucking...
Well, does height really matter when you guys are dating?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, for a short, I feel like when I'm going outside at nighttime and I'm going out and I'm wearing heels, my guy has to be taller than me.
Can I tell you guys something now?
No.
Please do.
They have this level, like men that are not tall.
They're
extremely masculine, and they're very manly, and they not
because they lack in height.
It doesn't. Okay, and these big men lack in money. They lack in discipline and intelligence.
Not all of them.
Saying all.
Not all
I'm
of them.
lying. I'm lying.
Not all
I'm
of them.
lying. Okay, I lied. I was just joking.
Not all of
y'all.
them.
I didn't say
But let me tell you something. For example, I was on a podcast with a guy.
Traitor.
You guys know who I'm talking about. The guy with the braids that he was like, I'm a high value man.
Yes.
Huh? No fugazi. I went to his podcast, and then this other lady chewed him up because she's just like, dude, yes, you're tall.
I watch that clip every single time I come across it.
And for some reason, they just always got their shit together. Like, they always, like, they're very,
They got something
confident.
to prove.
very confident, very masculine, very, they just provide, they give you that safe space. And it's just like, yeah, I think
that the
when guys are
tall
really
men
tall, it's
probably
like-
feel very safe,
Or they
in
feel like they just got
knowing
it.
that they can get women just
Yes.
because of their height.
And here we
Just
are
because
talking
that
about
they
it.
know that they're going to be looked at by women because they're as tall as they are.
I just want to say, guys, don't count out the short men.
Ben and now to
I know what clip you're talking about. Basically, it was Cooley. Basically, he went. He's got his own podcast, but he was on another podcast, and they were sitting talking about, what women want in men. And he said, I know I'm top 1% because I'm 6. I think he said he's 6'4". I make well over 100K. And he said some other stuff. And the woman was like, no, I would never pick you, yada, yada, yada. And the like. And that's, I mean, statistically, from what we see on dating apps, when they say vast majority of the women filter out for 6 foot men, he's not lying. He would have fallen into that category. So I'm filtering out all of the other men to find this guy. It's only when you run into the Chads and the Tyrones. And to be fair, you know, you do have some Chads and Tyrones that are not 6 feet. Right? These guys are moving and shaking, and they're making probably about 6 out of every 10 buckets that they put up, at least. These guys are elite scorers. They're efficient scorers. They're the Kevin Durant's of dating, and they have it where they need it. They always get to their spots. Always get to their spots and they get that shot up, right? But he has a point. Most of these ladies out here are looking for a man that's over 6 feet, making over $100,000. And these women in interviews have said, when asked the question, would you date the ugly billionaire or would you date the average good-looking man? Man, he makes average money, average income, but he's a good-looking man. I think majority of them said the ugly billionaire. So, I mean, not lying.
You know, people say that your dentist can tell if you've recently because, like, they can tell from your soft palate. Well, let me tell you, one time a few years ago, I went to the dentist, and they said to me, you know, you have an injury on your soft palate. Do you know how that happened? And in the moment, like, I mean, I'm a grown-ass adult, you know? I was probably 27 years old. Grown-ass adult, right? But I froze. I was like, no, I have no idea. You know, I did throw up a few days ago. Could that have done it? And they were like, honestly, no, that couldn't have done it. And I was like, oh, well, I ate some, like, bread that was kind of stale. Like, maybe that. And they were like, no, you know what? We're going to have to book you a follow-up appointment in a couple weeks for you to come back to make sure that there's nothing concerning going on. And you know what I did? I, in fact, booked the follow-up appointment and came back a few weeks later just so I wouldn't have to admit to a dentist that I, in fact, had bruising on my soft palate from a dick.
A woman in the comments said, my mother is a dental hygienist and she has absolutely confirmed this. She has also once found a blank hair in someone's teeth and slipped and accidentally asked what they had. Or no, it was who. It was who. It was who they had for lunch. Listen, ma'am, you better just clean my teeth. And while you're at it, clean my throat and we gonna be on. You know, I didn't come here for that. I didn't come here to be harassed. Another woman says, my God, ladies, how violently are we doing this exactly? Another woman says, girl, I want to have a sore throat the next day. Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe this is the place for the men to be. Cause this might be a good place for the men to be here. Check this woman out.
What's the purpose of dating when even the nice guys suck? So I finally made it to a third date from a guy that I met on Hinge. Second date went great, brought me flowers, we had a good time, like I thought everything was good. So I get a text that night, a nice message, how much he likes me, blah, blah, blah. Nothing too forward, just whatever. Then the communication all week is kind of very sparse. Like over the whole week, we probably said 6 things to each other back and forth, which like, I'm like, well, maybe this is more like, it's more my speed. Like I hate when a guy texts you every single day, all day, wanting to know what you're doing. Good morning. That's kind of ridiculous, but he just figured there'd be more communication. He's like, are you going to see me this weekend? I'm like, I want to. What do you have in mind? He's like, he offers a movie, which to me, I was like, that's weird for a third date. How are we supposed to get to know each other? But I'm like, maybe he wants to see like how we are, just hanging out, just vibing, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm done with it, whatever. So I reply back and basically like, I'm ready for him to come pick me up. I met him the first time in my town. The second time we met in his town, and now this time he's coming to me, and I think it's time that he picked me up, right? So I'm like, do you want us to meet there, or are you planning to pick me up? Basically like leaving the door open. He's like, if you're comfortable with it, I'll come pick you up. I sent him my address, great. The next day, because I told him, let me know when you're like on the way. The next day, he texts me at like 4 something and says, I plan to be to you at 6:50. And he's like, does that work for you? Great. So I go ahead and jump in the shower. I was going to wait until like after 5 because I thought he might be there a little later. But I'm like, since he texted me, let me just jump in the shower. I jump in the shower, start doing my makeup. It's like after 5:30. I start doing my hair. And then I get a text at 5:50-ish. Becca, I have to cancel. So sorry. I know this is last minute. He was like, it's unacceptable. Like, whatever. And I'm just like, no explanation of why. No, like, phone call to apologize, like, face to face, basically. No reschedule. No, like, well, I'll be there in the morning. You know, nothing. Just, so sorry, whatever. And all I said was, okay. Because the fuck am I supposed to tell you? Which is totally fine. It's not fucking fine. Like, what a fucking fumble. Anyways, he replies back and was like, I can't apologize enough. And I'm not answering to that. What could have possibly gone wrong in an hour that you didn't know earlier in the day? Just, I'm over it. Even the guys that I think are nice irritate me. And that's about where we are.
You know, sometimes these men that women are calling nice are actually they're nonchalant, and they were nonchalant from the beginning. They're not good people. It's just that, oh well, he's nice to me. Might act like a jerk to everybody else, but he's nice to me.